Emma. Lovely to have you on Future Speak today.
I've been sort of reading up and researching, and the metaverse is something that I'm seeing coming up quite frequently, and it is something that is looking to be quite big even as soon as 2023.
Lovely to have you on Future Speak today to talk about the future of work, which, talking to many of my guests today, is here now. And I really wanted you to come on and give us your views, because actually it's your generation that is the most impacted. You're early on in your career. You're part of the Talk HR Club, which is really building an HR community to support one another. So before we kind of get into it, I'm really keen today to learn more about your views. I'd love you to introduce yourself to everyone and tell us a bit more about who you are, what you do, and the Talk HR Club.
Well, firstly, thanks for having me, Sam. So I'm Emma, and I do a lot of the digital marketing with Mandy at the Talk HR Club. And the Talk HR Club is a platform, a new live platform, the first sort of platform of its kind, I guess, because it's such a live interactive platform for HR consultants and independent people professionals. And we're basically building a community online, for HR consultants that allows them to connect, collaborate, share and support one another. And as I say, it's the first sort of platform of its kind in the sense that it is so interactive, and with the way that the world is going with technology and the future of work, being able to connect online and connect so widely is really important. I think like we've got people spread all over the country, and a few people even in America that we're starting to branch out to, which we wouldn't otherwise be able to connect with one another. So having an online platform, I think, is a really big step in the way that independent HR consultant world is moving.
Funny enough, before we came on air today, we were talking about technology, and I was laughing about the amazing bank of gadgets that Ben behind me has, who really runs the show, right? I've got the easy part here. And we were laughing about Snapchat and the fact that someone like me is a 48-year-old, pretty inept person when it comes to technology. I do my best, right? I try and learn. It's something I never got. And yet for your generation, you grew up with it. So when you hear about the future of work, what does it mean for you?
Thinking about the future of work is really interesting for, like you say, for my generation. When I was in school, my sort of vision of work was seeing my mum dressed in her stilettos and a briefcase going into the office every morning. And now often we're both working from home, connected to completely different sort of parts of the world under the same roof. And so I think technology plays such a huge part in that. And technology is changing all the time, like we were talking about Snapchat, and then that's something that even now is sort of dying out, and you've got things like Instagram, TikTok, all these different things that are social media platforms, but are no longer just social media platforms for independent businesses, and all business. Like having these different social media platforms is such a huge part in their business. Like Mandy, the founder of the Talk HR Club, she'll talk about when she first started off Talk HR Solutions, her consultancy, that she would be getting her flyers and going door to door. And now our main source of marketing is online. It's LinkedIn, it's Twitter, Instagram, all of these different things. And so I think technology is the future of work in terms of our generation. I would say are get the opportunity to really hone in on that as the start of our career.
A lot of that what we're talking about is here today. Is this something that for you as your generation excites you? Is it just like a 21st century utility? What's your emotional connection with this?
I think technology definitely has its pros and cons. I mean, I think being able to do things like working from home and things like that is really beneficial. Like, I love hybrid working because I love the convenience of if I need to, being able to work from home and having the technology to use that. But also, I think one of the downfalls that could be seen in our generation is that a lot of people, I think, find that that lack of connection sometimes because they don't have the opportunity to go into the office and they don't have the opportunity to be in a big team. But at the same time, I think technology, like I was saying before with the Talk HR Club, like we are connected to people all over the place, and you know, without the Talk HR Club and the online connection, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. You're getting exposed to so many more people and so many like different walks of life. And so I think, although of course there are pros and cons to everything, I think for me, I think technology is going to be huge in sort of boosting our connections, our networking opportunities, everything like that. I think, yeah.
As someone who understands probably a lot more of the technology than I do, because you use it innately, you know, it's in someone gives you a phone and you can use it. You're the generation that gets that.
Yeah.
Where do you see it going?
You hear talk all the time of things like the metaverse, and I'll be the first person to put my hands up and say, I don't really understand the metaverse and what it all means. And I think that's something that we're all going to have to get to know pretty quickly. I mean, I've been sort of reading up and researching about the future of small businesses and stuff as part of my role. And the metaverse is something that I'm seeing coming up quite frequently, and is something that is looking to be quite big even as soon as 2023. I mean, I think a lot of places are already starting to do that. But I think having those sort of like big pushes of the technology, I think it's just expanding what we can do. And is pushing the limits of being able to have your avatar and sat in a boardroom and everybody's in different places all over the world. Like the things that are going to be happening in the next 5 or 10 years, we probably can't even imagine what that's going to be yet.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? When I went to that event recently that I know we're going to be talking about in the club soon, and actually seeing what's going on when it comes to things like the metaverse and learning some really interesting things, like actually the word metaverse was first posed in a novel 30 years ago.
Really? I didn't know that.
You know, there's a lot of hype and talk around the fact that, you know, it's going to be worth something along the lines of, and the figure's not right, $70 billion in the next few years. But actually 79% of that, and that is a figure that stuck in my head, is here already. And that's here already because we've already got the in-game community that play with one another in the virtual world and meet one another in that sphere. Those advances are already here. And there's some that are now saying that, hey, listen, the metaverse is great, but actually, is the metaverse where it's at? Or is this actually taking us down the wrong avenue? Is it really what's after that is going to be more interesting? There's huge talk about Web 3.0 and how that's going to impact us. And yet Jack Dorsey's working on Web 5.0. So there's a lot going on here. What would you like to see personally as you, Emma, in terms of how technology evolves to create more opportunities for you?
I think one of the most important things for me, I think, is being able to maintain that sort of authentic connection. And I don't know what that means in terms of technology, but one thing that, and like I say, I haven't got a huge knowledge on the metaverse, but one thing that concerns me about things like that is people hiding behind an avatar and not being able to sort of show up and truly still be their authentic selves and be able to present themselves authentically. So I think for me, and maybe this is partly to do with like what I mentioned before, as a young person who's just started out in their career, a lot of people who have been working from home and haven't felt that connection. I mean, I'm lucky I get to go in and work with Mandy, so I get that connection, but a lot of people I know haven't had that chance or are just sort of starting to. And so whilst, you know, COVID has accelerated technology in the workplace in a way that we probably wouldn't have had for a long time had it not been for COVID, I think it's still really important that whilst we're accelerating technology to benefit us, that we don't make it get in the way of those human connections that are really important, that we need in work. Because I think that having relationships is the way that we're going anyway as well. So like the way that I read things on LinkedIn is the way that professionalism is now is very different to the way it was 10 years ago. And something that we talk about in the Talk HR Club a lot is turning up as your authentic self. And I think we've just sort of got to a place where actually professionalism isn't walking into work with stilettos and a briefcase and going with your work face on. It's starting to become more of a place where you're encouraged to be your authentic self. And so I just think it's important that wherever technology goes, that doesn't become a barrier and then take it down the wrong path, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. And there's also a lot of talk right now around those of us that do stuff in the metaverse. How do you protect individuals? To your point, how do you protect them, enable and facilitate that creativity without taking it away and using old-fashioned methodology in a new environment? And we're way off being able to have an answer for that. And when you look at, I think Microsoft have recently done a deal with the whole metaverse and how that's going to work, and they're taking great strides towards that. So what does that mean for policies and procedures? Is that the right way? How is that policed? All of these things, answers is maybe too strong a word, but we need to have an opinion and a way to take this forward, I guess. And we've been talking about the metaverse, and, you know, you talked about you doing a lot of research around it now. It doesn't feel like it's something that's real for you yet.
Yeah, I would say that, and maybe it's because I've not had the opportunity yet to experience it. So I can't say firsthand, but for me, it doesn't feel real. I like being able to come on a call and see somebody in front of me, and for me, that connection is really important. I feel like being able to speak to somebody and see their face, that's something that for me I really enjoy. Part of why as well I like to be able to go in and have those in-person connections in the actual workplace. Maybe once I've experienced it, I'll change my mind because it'll feel more immersive. But for me, I think I'm just concerned personally that I won't feel that connection, that it will hinder the connection that you get from seeing somebody's face and seeing the way that they react.
How would you like your role to evolve over time when you look at your career, say, over the next 15 to 20 years?
So I think that's a really interesting question. I think, as I mentioned, I do think technology is the future. And I think technology enables us to be so much more efficient, but also to have that balance. I think it helps us to have that work-life balance. Like, I went recently to a conference called Digital Gaggle in Bristol, a digital marketing conference, which was really, really good. And one of the guest speakers was talking a lot about automation. And automation is something that we use in the club, but just the different ways that you can use automation, that I didn't even realize how many different ways there were to automate things. And I think it does really help to enable us to make our lives so much easier. And so I think for me, in the next sort of 5, 10, 20 years, is just seeing what different technologies come about and finding a way to harness it and stay ahead of the curve to enable us to have that work-life balance and to really enjoy what I do. And I do really enjoy what I do. And I think staying ahead of the curve with these new technologies really helps to enable me to do that. So
we're also now looking at things across the board, like how do we look at reward in 2023? How do we look at well-being? And well-being is mental well-being, it's physical well-being, it's financial well-being. As someone who's got a career ahead of you, what's important to you, and what will you be looking at from your future employers when you come to them in more of a partnership, which it will be?
I'm somebody who's very passionate about what I do, and I like to feel passionate about what I do, but also, like you say, well-being is so important. And I feel like that's something that over the past sort of 5 years, I've really noticed people talking about more. And I think there is a danger about people talking about it and people authentically practicing it. And so I think for me, it's about being really clear about having that passion, being able to harness my passion, but having that work-life balance. I think that is something that people are realizing more, and I don't know whether you would agree, but I think that's something that I've noticed that people seem to be appreciating, and maybe that's partly because of COVID and people have almost had that reflection time to see what's really important for them. So I think for me, yeah, it's about having that work-life balance and being able to harness my passion.
When you talk about your work-life balance and being able to harness your passion, because I know how sporty you are and how much that means to you. If someone were to say to you, okay, a 9 to 5 role, what are your thoughts on that kind of model? Where do you see that going?
Again, I think coming out of COVID, that's changed a lot. And how that I am at the moment is I work 9 to 5, but it's flexible as well. And Mandy is very flexible, and that is something that I benefit from massively, I think. And having that structure, I think I really enjoy that structure, but I also think having a bit of flexibility, obviously that doesn't work for all work models, but for mine it does. And I think yeah, having that trust in your employees, I think that's something that, again, I've noticed from sort of reading over LinkedIn, is the main sort of thing that comes up is about having relationships where people can trust you, where your employers can trust you, and where you respect your employees as well. But having that respect given to your employees means that they respect you too, and then it's that mutual respect, I think, is so important. And being able to have conversations and say, okay, I've got this 9 to 5 model, but maybe should we be a bit flexible, and just having a mutual respect and an open conversation, and to be able to say, actually, no, that doesn't work for us. Do you see what I mean?
I do. And that whole piece around mutual respect, it's interesting in some of the conversations I have with my clients. It's, this is what we're looking for from an employee, and really having that conversation with, well, hang on a minute, that works both ways. What an employee is going to give you, what is your client as the employer going to give them? It goes back to creating that respect. From what you're seeing and hearing around the HR community, what are you hearing that resonates with you when you hear some of these companies proactively building respect? What are they doing to get that?
I think it's listening to your employees and acting on it. And a lot of the time, like, you see all this stuff about people having flashy benefits and all of this, and okay, sometimes, flashy benefits are nice, sure, but I think they don't mean anything unless they're underpinned with true sort of values and listening to what your employees actually need. Do they need, I don't know, do they need a crazy gym membership and access to a spa that they might not access every month? Or do they maybe need a contribution to their commute into work because energy bills are rising? And that's the bit that people really need to focus on. I think it's just listening to what your employees actually want and saying, okay, can we deliver that? How do we deliver that? If we can't deliver that, let's speak to them and see how else we can help, and what they actually really are looking for, rather than, coating it with flashy benefits and etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a good one for you, and I'm really interested in your answer on this.
Okay.
What was your latest Netflix binge?
Oh, does it have to be Netflix?
Nope.
Okay, we've recently been watching The Devil's Hour. We're still halfway through it, so if you've seen it, no spoilers, please. But it's brilliant. Terrifying, but brilliant.
Another one I don't know anything about.
Oh, well, I couldn't recommend it more. Peter Capaldi, really good.
Got it. Thanks, Em. And as I said, I really wanted you to come on today from someone who really is at the forefront of the future of work and is shaping work as we know it. If you've got people listening in today who have got a multi-generational workforce, they're looking to modernise their workforce, what tips or advice would you give them to be able to attract a modern workforce of today, someone who's really at the forefront of it?
For me, I would say have a friendly environment. I think for me, that seems to be the thing that attracts, speaking to my friends and from experience, is being able to create those genuine connections rather than having the strict, tense hierarchy of I'm the boss. And, obviously there is always going to be some kind of hierarchy and there's got to be professionalism. But I think it's having a nice open environment where your employees feel valued and you can form genuine relationships. I think that's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, get comfortable with the fact there's a lot of grey area now between the personal and the work life.
Yeah, be prepared to accept your employees as their authentic selves, because I think that's definitely, from my experience, Mandy has always from day dot said that she doesn't want there to be a home Emma and a work Emma. She wants me to be myself, which is something that has made me feel so comfortable, and we've got a great relationship because we have such a laugh because we're able to just be ourselves. And I think that is something that's so valuable. And if you valued your employees as themselves, then why would they want to go anywhere else? Because you're accepting them as themselves. So I think that for me is the core of a happy workforce.
Brilliant. It's been really great to hear your insights today, and I really wanted people to hear that from you as someone who's got a long and great career ahead of her and is really listening to a lot of what's happening with the HR community. So thank you for coming on. I know this wasn't an easy thing for you.
Thanks for having me.
And great job. See you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.